Hi, it's Bill Montgomery again. Welcome back. And today we're just going to have a bonus session on climbing to Camp Muir on Mount Rainier. And for those of you who live in Washington, you might want to go on that hike. It is what I consider to be, and I think everybody does, the most difficult hike in the Cascades. And of course, it's more difficult if you go all the way to the top of Rainier, but just going to Camp Muir as a hike, a day hike, is the most difficult one you could go on. The reason being is at 5,000 feet, you're starting at 5,000 feet at Paradise. So for those folks that are coming in from out of town or from around the world and just visiting Mount Rainier as a tourist site, you might consider climbing to Camp Muir. But if you do, you want to stay overnight at Paradise or close to it. So you acclimatize a little bit to the altitude, because you're at 5,000 feet. It'll help you a lot the next day. But what I do is I go from sea level to 10,000 feet and then back down home again. But I thought this would be useful to folks, no matter where you live, if you're going to climb any kind of in the snow anywhere at altitude, what you might want to consider. So Camp Muir is at just over 10,000 feet. It's the one of the two base camps for climbing to the top. And you'll see there's shacks up there where people can sleep, and they usually put their tents out, sleep in tents, or they sleep in the shack, depending on whether they have a guide service with them. But to climb to Camp Muir in itself is quite an adventure, and there's some things you need to keep in mind, because you can really get in trouble. In fact, if you look it up online, you'll find that Camp Muir the hike to Camp Muir is one of the 10 most dangerous hikes in the lower United States. So keep that in mind. Here's what you need. You need to bring sunscreen, because first of all, I only recommend you go to Muir when the weather's good. Don't mess around with it. It's a little bit cloudy or even somewhat cloudy, because that's when you can really get in trouble. If you go up, that's why people die up there, because the weather can change. The mountain makes its own weather, even when it's really sunny. But if it's pretty much hot, 80 or 90 or whatever, everywhere, then you got a good chance you're going to be okay. There's no forecast, but I would recommend that. So that's number one. And so you're going to be in the sun. You need sunscreen, because you can get burned with the snow. There's always going to be snow, no matter how hot it is or what time of year it is. Going to be snow on the Muir snowfields. So bring sunscreen. Number two, bring a hat. And this would not be a good hat, because this doesn't, I can't quite get it down over my ears. So something that goes over your ears. And the reason being is that when you're in the Muir snowfields, most of the time you're going to get a crosswind, and it's going to freeze your ears unless you have a hat over, something to put over your ears. So bring some kind of a cap that does that. Microspikes, of course, or crampons. I recommend microspikes. If you're just going to Camp Muir, you don't need crampons unless you're going to go all the way to the top of the mountain, in my opinion. Although crampons and those big, heavy mountaineer boots can be pretty comfortable, because they keep your feet warm, and it can get a little icy, a little chilly out. Usually not when it's hot out, but so your feet can get pretty cold because you're in the snow for quite a while. So microspikes, gaiters. There are two kinds of gaiters you can get. There's a shorty gaiter, and then there's the full-length gaiter. You really don't need a full-length gaiter, I don't think, for the Muir snowfields. But the shorty gaiters are nice because they keep the snow out of your boots, and it can make a difference for you. So sunglasses. You don't want to go blind. In fact, I recommend you get some glacier glasses, because they wrap all the way around, and they'll protect your eyes. But you definitely want to have sunglasses at least. As I mentioned, weather, but snow conditions too. One of the things that people get in trouble with, is another example of the pain I went through just for you guys. So when you're coming down right here, people make these slides in the snow. They call them, when they slide down that, they call it glissading. Well, usually what you're doing is you're using your trekking poles and or an ice axe, and you're slowing yourself down as you go. But if the snow is ice, don't do it, because I don't care how much of an arrest you can do, Maybe if you had an ice axe, maybe you're okay, but I use trekking poles. So I got going so fast at one point in the ice that I couldn't slow myself down fast enough. I went up into the air at the end, came down and broke broke a couple of vertebrae in my back. So actually, it broke my tailbone. Excuse me. So don't do that. So the snow is soft up there, no problem. You don't have to worry about it. And you can use your poles to rest yourself. But be very cautious. If you're going to go down in the ice, just know what to expect. So, snow conditions. Pay attention to snow conditions. Also at Pebble Creek, and you'll find out if you go there what Pebble Creek is. But Pebble Creek is just a creek just before you get up into the snow. And I went across there one time when normally you walk across the rocks. But I went across the rocks one time, or almost did, when there was a thin film of ice on top of every rock. So if you stepped on a rock, you went down. I was fortunate enough to see somebody go into the creek before I went across. So I was real careful when I went across myself, and I was fine. Still, it was those kind of things that come up all the time on the mountain. You just don't know what it's going to be. It seems like every time it's something different. So bring plenty to eat, because you're at altitude. You're going to be hungry. It goes through your system goes through carbohydrates pretty fast. So bring plenty to eat, and stop and rest a little bit. Take something to eat, and take your time. Take your time getting up there, especially if you're going from sea level. But you don't want to go too fast, because your body is not used to that altitude, and for some people they'll get sick. I mean, especially when you get to about 7,000 feet, you'll want to probably start doing the pressure breathing. That really makes a difference. Every 15 steps, you do some pressure breathing. I talked about the pressure breathing in another video, so you can go back and watch that if you want. Basically, it's just taking a deep breath and then blowing out of your mouth. Taking breath through your nose, blowing out of your mouth under pressure. So keep your lips together. But it makes a big difference, and so I recommend the pressure breathing. Those are the main things. So this is a short, very short video, very short session. But I wanted to kind of give you an overview of what you needed to do if you were going to decide to go up the most difficult hike in the Cascades to Camp Muir. I go once a year, and that's my goal, to be able to go once a year and keep going until I don't know. I wonder how long I'll be able to go. Don't know. Maybe this year will be the last year I'll go. Maybe, who knows? So anyway, enjoy yourself if you go to Camp Muir. The views are absolutely amazing. People go there, and they're tourists, and they just walk around the lower part of the mountain, and they're seeing great views. And you can imagine what it's like when you get up a little higher. So enjoy it, and be careful, because the weather can change anytime, and you can get lost up there. And even though I've been up there a lot, it's so easy to get lost. Take a GPS with you. That's always a good idea. Bring GPS with you, and enjoy yourselves. So thank you much. Talk to you again.